Sometimes, a single moment on television can settle deeper in our hearts than we ever expect. We watch for entertainment, for company, for distraction. But every so often, something happens on screen that reshapes the way we feel about time, love, and the people who have quietly become part of our lives. That's what happened with Kelly Ripa. For 2 unforgettable decades, she wasn't just a host, she became a constant presence, someone who felt like a friend dropping by the kitchen every morning with a smile and a joke. From the very start, Kelly stood out, not because she tried to be perfect, but because she was so wonderfully human. Her quick humor, her honesty, and the way she could laugh at herself made her feel like a neighbor who knew exactly how your morning coffee tasted. Audiences grew up with her voice drifting through their homes like sunlight through a window. Over the years, she became woven into America's morning routine. You didn't just watch her, you lived a part of your day with her. That's why the emotions surrounding her final broadcast were unlike anything anyone expected. When the camera switched on that morning, the air carried a different kind of weight. Kelly's smile was bright, warm, as always, but her eyes told another story, one filled with gratitude, nostalgia, and the bittersweet ache of endings. As the show opened, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Yet, as soon as the shutters clicked and the audience applause softened, even the studio crew, many of whom had been with her since the early years, felt it. This morning was different. This wasn't just any farewell. This was the closing of a chapter that meant something to millions. Kelly's co-host reached for her hand, and she held it a little tighter than usual. For the first time ever, the normally buzzing studio stood still. The crew members, her second family, watched her with the same emotion the audience felt. These were people who had celebrated her milestones, comforted her during difficult days, and watched her children grow from behind the set walls. And now, like the viewers at home, they were preparing for a goodbye none of them wanted to face. When Kelly finally began to speak, her voice trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of years. She didn't thank her audience for watching her. Instead, she thanked them for sharing life with her. She talked about mornings when she felt tired, mornings when she didn't feel her best, mornings when she carried worries only she knew. And through all those years, what carried her were the people laughing with her on the other side of the screen. She admitted that on the hardest days, it was the sound of applause, the energy of the live audience, the messages from fans, and the sense of connection that helped her find her smile again. She said she hoped she had been just as meaningful to the viewers as they had been to her. And as she spoke, you could see her trying to stay composed, trying to hold back the emotion building in her chest. Then something happened that no one expected. Kelly quietly gestured for Mark and their children to join her on stage. It wasn't planned, it wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't a grand performance. It was real, completely raw, beautifully simple. Her family walked out, not as television figures, but as the people who had shared her world beyond the cameras. Her kids hugged her, and Mark stood by her side, saying little, but expressing everything through his presence. His eyes shimmered, proud and tender, the way only a partner of many years can look at the love of their life. Kelly whispered something softly to him, and whatever it was, it didn't need to be heard. Their closeness, built from decades of marriage, laughter, and the ups and downs of ordinary life, said more than words ever could. The audience felt it too. When someone called out, "Don't go, Kelly," tears filled the room. Tissue boxes were passed around. Fans who had been watching her since the early 2000s stood up to applaud the woman who had brightened their mornings year after year. Social media lit up instantly. Thousands of posts poured in. Memories, photos, clips, heartfelt notes. People shared how Kelly had helped them through tough times, or how watching her show with a parent or spouse had become a cherished tradition. She had been a familiar face during breakups, sicknesses, new jobs, new babies, and quiet mornings with coffee. Not many hosts can say they became part of America's daily heartbeat, but Kelly truly did. But the biggest surprise of the morning came at the very end. As the credits began to roll, Kelly didn't talk about the show ending. She talked about beginnings. She reminded everyone that life is always moving, always changing. She said transitions aren't something to fear, they're proof that we're still living, still learning, still becoming something new. She wasn't speaking only to the viewers. She was speaking to anyone who had ever struggled with saying goodbye, anyone who had ever wondered how to start again, anyone who had ever faced a moment that felt like an ending. In her final words, she offered a message of hope, that the next chapter often holds something even more beautiful. When she stepped off the stage for the last time, tears tracing her cheeks, the applause echoed long after she was gone. And for the first time in 23 years, the studio fell silent. Not empty, just full of the emotions left behind. Gratitude, joy, love, and the ache of letting go. The days following her departure were strangely quiet across the industry. Even the studio felt bigger, as if its familiar warmth had shifted. Online, her best moments trended nonstop. Her funniest jokes, her Halloween costumes, her heartfelt moments as a mom, the times she couldn't stop laughing, the spontaneous reactions that made her so real. Fans replayed them, holding on to the joy she gave so freely. What Kelly created wasn't a show, it was a shared experience, a connection, a reminder that the most ordinary mornings can become extraordinary with the right person guiding you through them. And though she stepped away from the spotlight, her impact didn't fade. Her legacy, her warmth, her humor, her authenticity lives on in every home she touched, in the laughter she sparked, in the comfort she gave, and in the countless hearts that felt her presence like a friend. Kelly Ripa's final broadcast wasn't an ending. It was a beautiful transition, a reminder that farewells are not losses, but bridges to new stories waiting to unfold. And just like she told her audience, change isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. Because sometimes the most joyful beginnings come right after the most emotional goodbyes.